The episode begins with a preview of much later in the story. Lloyd Frontera stands on top of a cliff alongside his summons and his knight, Javier Asrahan, who is carrying a white flag bearing a certain logo. Sukim introduces himself as narrator before correcting his name to Lloyd Frontera, proclaiming that this is the story of how he, an average civil engineering student, was able to turn an entire world upside down. The episode then cuts to a few years prior and shows the very first moment in which Suho wakes up in the body of Lloyd. Lying face down on a dirt road, he is awoken by a blue message box explaining that he has had a random wish granted by the Absolute, and is now a character of Knight of Blood and Iron. He stares blankly at the window before realizing that he must be in a different world, awkwardly sitting himself up and shivering from the evening cold before realizing that his jaw has moved out of place from lying on the ground. The system laughs at him and he angrily swats the message away before attempting to think more clearly and figure out which character he has possessed. His question is answered by the arrival of Javier Asrahan, who refers to him as Master Lloyd and invites him to return to the manor. Suho immediately recognizes him as the main protagonist of the novel and subsequently realizes his own newfound identity, shouting in disbelief that he is the hooligan Lloyd Frontera. A brief silence befalls the two until Javier smirks and agrees that it is good he is self-aware. The two return to the manor, where Suho as Lloyd admits that he has no idea how he ended up in that situation. Javier explains that he had begun drinking in the afternoon, got drunk, destroyed pub furniture, and passed out on his way back home. He further explains that he had been sent to find Lloyd due to his father's worry and that he would be sad if his son were to die on the road. Before he is able to leave, Suho stops him and asks whether their family is in debt, to which the knight replies that it is a strange question to ask before closing the door. Suho is then left alone and takes the time to remember everything that he knows about the novel, as he read the last chapter in his boarding room the night prior. He recalls that the Baron and Baroness fell prey to an evil conman, lost everything they had, and committed suicide, leaving Lloyd to become a beggar and die from coughing up blood. Frustrated, Suho shouts that there's no point in being a noble if his new life is said to be just as miserable as his previous one, and wonders what exactly was he wished for that put him in the body of someone with such an ending. The next day, he runs into Lloyd's mother, Marbella Frontera, and Javier in the halls of the manor. Concerned rather than agitated, she begs that Lloyd return to the pub and apologize for once, to which he awkwardly agrees without any fuss. Both of them are left highly confused by this response, and Suho travels to the town with Javier as his escort. All of the townsfolk are resentful of Lloyd and are quick to hide from his sight as soon as they notice him. Exasperated, Suho thinks to himself that he should try improving his image to at least get food when he's a beggar before correcting himself with the hope of living comfortable if he is able to sort out the Baron's debts. He wonders if he has any cheat codes or skills available when another blue window appears in front of him, displaying his current skills of human scum, causing others to furrow their brows, and rowdy drunkard, causing him to become an absolute ass when it is used. Suho angrily waves these away and accidentally walks past the pub door while distracted, leading Javier to question if he was lying about apologizing and forcing him to excuse that he was only thinking about something. Javier only grows more suspicious at this response, thinking to himself that Lloyd seems like a completely different person but does not voice these doubts aloud as they enter the pub. Lloyd deeply bows his head before the pub owner and accepts full responsibility for the events of the previous night. His sincerity instead draws extreme caution from the owner, who fearfully begs that he not apologize, as it is even more terrifying for such an unsavory individual to suddenly be so polite. Taking note of this, Suho assumes a far more casual posture and offers a brief, sarcastic apology that the owner reluctantly dismisses again. Suho is left unsure of how to proceed and leaves without another word. On the walk home, Suho comments that the pub owner didn't seem happy with his apology, to which Xavier explains that he likely will not be satisfied unless compensated, as all of the destroyed furniture had been purchased with his hard-earned money. Furthermore, he explains that the owner's mother is currently sick from the winter cold, adding another reason for him to be so distraught. Taking this in mind, Suho recalls that the pub interior was rather inadequately heated and offhandedly thinks to himself that the elderly couldn't handle that kind of cold without the help of on-door floors before stopping in place. Realizing that there are no on-door floors in the world of the novel, he recognizes an untapped market and senses an opportunity to make great deals of money if he were to construct them. He recalls the experience that he had gathered prior to his transmigration, such as his civil engineering education, time spent as a military engineer, and the work he had done at various construction sites. Confident that he will be able to see this plan through and resolving that he will use it to settle the Baron's debts. Swiftly turning around, he starts back towards the pub to get his first order when he is stopped by another blue message window notifying him of the relationship point system. The window explains that they can be earned by improving relationships with key characters, though does not explain how to use them. Turning around, Lloyd looks at Javier Astrahan and sees a screen above his head displaying an approval rating of -30. Believing this to be extremely low, Lloyd smiles and attempts to improve the score by complimenting his looks, only for the knight to coldly reject it and decrease his approval rating by another point. Lloyd swiftly gives up on this course of action and turns back around to continue walking. After arriving at the pub, Lloyd explains his construction proposal to the pub owner with the conditions that the waived construction fees will cancel out the property damage that he previously caused. The pub owner is initially suspicious and refuses to sign, to which Lloyd plasters on his best hooligan frown and threatens him until he does. The system chastises him for this, calling him absolute garbage, though he does not particularly care and only pockets the signed contract with a grin. At the construction site, Javier questions Lloyd's intentions and bluntly asks if he is looking to cause more trouble. Lloyd responds by explaining the concept of cognitive distortion, a phenomenon where one wrongly believes that things will happen a certain way based on previous events and one's own negative prejudice. Javier initially refutes this, stating that his beliefs are based on experience and statistics rather than prejudice, and Lloyd swiftly shuts this down as well by reminding that all experiences and statistics are from the past. Javier is left speechless, questioning if he had always been so smooth with his words, and Lloyd turns around to begin shoveling with the promise that he will make the pub owner and his mother smile. A week later, Lloyd is able to complete the frame and walls of the house using timber from the Frontier Estates warehouse and clay dug up from the river. Amazed that something is actually being built, Javier wonders where he learned such a thing and whether he truly plans to honor the contract. Lloyd, extremely tired due to his physically weak body, makes a meager attempt to continue cutting wood before nearly falling over and having to be caught by Javier. He asks what needs to be done with the wood and swiftly cuts the logs into several uniform pieces to Lloyd's speechless approval. After this is finished, Lloyd pats him on the shoulder and asks that he helps with the digging next, leading Javier to quickly regret offering his help. Seeing through him, Lloyd correctly assumes that he is helping out of curiosity and still waiting to see how his plan will end up being a con. He reasons that he'll find the answer once the project is finished, and that the project will be finished faster if the two of them work together. Javier internally acknowledges that Lloyd has indeed changed, though remains untrusting and agrees that the only answer is to hurry up and see for himself how it will turn out. The two work together until the house is completed. The pub owner is shocked by the warmth provided by the ondol floor. His mother is very satisfied with the results, lying across the floor and happily proclaiming that the heat has relaxed all of her stiff joints. The owner thanks Lloyd from the bottom of his heart, smiling alongside his mother and fulfilling Lloyd's promise to Javier's surprise. While he still doubts the noble's intentions, he cannot deny the reality that the two are happy, and his approval rating increases by 2 points -31 to -29, which grants him 36 RP. A few days later, word of the new house has spread through the town, and a long line of citizens are stood waiting for a chance to test it for themselves. Lloyd has set himself up at a table nearby, advertising two styles of construction, building an annex in the yard and remodeling one's current home to have an ondol floor. Despite his enthusiasm and his 10% discount if they order both, the villagers still do not trust him and are reluctant to accept, leading Lloyd to take advantage of his poor reputation to try and threaten them the same way he initially threatened the pub owner. While talking to a potential customer, he is interrupted by his father, Arcos Frontera, asking what he is doing. He has an approval rating of -20 and is accompanied by Newman. That's it for this chapter. When the next one is available, you'll find it right on the end screen. If you don't see it yet, feel free to explore my other videos. You might find something you'll love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.